Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, star maker for entrepreneurs who want to unlock their potential, command any stage, and make blockbuster profits. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a brand that makes you happy and profitable. Here we go.
Hi everyone, welcome to Thrive. This is episode number 3, How to Create a Media-Ready Brand with guest Ginger Casey. Ginger Casey is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who's covered the news from coast to coast on all major networks. She's interviewed world leaders and 4 presidents of the United States and covered everything from the LA gang riots to the AIDS epidemic. And today she's with us to help us understand how we can create a media-ready brand. Ginger talks about how you can get your foot in the door even if you're just starting your career, what you need to have in place before interviewers will even take a look at you, why now more than ever it's important to have a personal brand, and how you can get more and more media appearances from your very first one. Ginger has awesome content. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a brand that makes you happy and profitable. Thank you so much for joining us. You are in for 30 minutes of high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. And I could not be more thrilled to have my guest with me today, award-winning journalist Ginger Casey. Ginger is a veteran of the broadcast news industry whose career has spanned the country from coast to coast. She's worked as a news anchor, reporter, documentary producer, and magazine columnist, and has garnered several national honors and awards for her work, including the prestigious Emmy Award, the Golden Mike, and the Cable Car Award for Television Excellence. Ginger produced and hosted several programs dealing with voter and family concerns and was co-host for an award-winning town hall meeting with President Bill Clinton. And she's also interviewed former presidents Ronald Reagan, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and other world leaders. She's worked for all 3 major networks, as well as PBS, where she was a contributor to the MacNeil-Lehrer NewsHour and host of a nightly news program in San Francisco. Ginger has covered everything from the LA gang scene to the AIDS crisis and reported from the scenes of earthquakes, hurricanes, mudslides, wildfires, but hopefully, Ginger, this will be a much safer environment. Currently, Ginger is an opt-in contributor to Crain's Cleveland Business Magazine and volunteers her time to improving the lives of the America's wild Mustangs and burros. So thank you so much for being here, Ginger. I really appreciate your patience.
So sorry about the technical delays. We had to get all the technical stuff to sync up here, and I apologize.
No worries. It's well worth the wait.
Thank you.
And for all of you that are in the audience right now, I want you to know that Ginger's bio is actually like 5 pages long. And I had to cut out like 90% of it because it's so vast. She's been a writer to many publications. She's a published author. She speaks at universities, at Brown University, at Emerson College. She is the real deal. So I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So you're at this point looking back at this huge, vast representation of your work. But let's go back to the beginning. How did you get into journalism, and how did you get your foot in the door, really getting started?
Well, I sort of came in an unusual way. Most people go from high school, they go on to study journalism in college, and then they start interning until they get their job. What I did was I went into the Air Force, and when I was getting out and they were telling me how I could apply my military training to civilian life, one of the careers they suggested was journalism, because I worked as an intelligence specialist in the Air Force. And that was about gathering up information and giving presentations, which I used to give briefings. So I thought, oh, this looks phenomenal. So I started knocking on doors. I didn't have a college degree at that point. I just had my military experience. And of course, I was rejected, and there weren't a lot of stations then. There weren't a lot of media outlets like there are now. You had 3 stations in every town: ABC, CBS, NBC, and maybe a PBS channel. So I was rejected by 2 of the 3, and so I put off going to the 3rd, because then, of course, my rejection wasn't final because I hadn't been rejected by the last one. But I eventually realized I was just gaming myself with that, and so I knocked on the door of the 3rd television station, and I told the guy I'd do anything to get in there in terms of, I'd work as an unpaid intern. And once they heard that, of course, they loved hearing that. And so I had a full-time job, and what I did was after work, I'd go over to the television station and I'd sweep the room, I'd empty the trash cans, back then we used slides, I'd put away the slides, I'd carry gear for the reporters when they go out on stories, I'd drive the car, I'd come back in, I'd help them edit. Essentially, I did everything I could to learn as much as I could about the business, and they were happy to have me. Places always love to have unpaid labor, and I think that's changed, and I'm glad it has in a way, because by making people do free internships, they limit the people who can participate, because not everybody has the income to do that. What I did was I worked full-time in addition to what I was doing. And eventually it paid off. Eventually they came to me and asked me if I wanted to try out for the weekend weather position that was coming open, the weekend weather girl, as they called it then. So I tried out for it. They gave me the job, and they told me I had 2 weeks to learn essentially meteorology.
No problem.
And that's after bragging to them that I could do anything. I sort of was compelled to start studying very quickly. TV weathercasts are not that complicated, but you do have to understand a little bit behind the forecast in order to lay one out there. And there were great people at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA office. They had an office at the Reno airport, and so I'd go over there and they'd help me put my forecasts together. And I went on the air, and I guess I was about as awful as anybody could be, trying to jump into a profession they have no experience with. And, television's live, you don't tape, for the most part, you don't tape newscasts, they're all live. And so I got up there on air, and I just quivered my way through the weather, and it was terrible because we had maps, and we had to point to the maps when we were discussing the forecast, and they were so cheap where I worked. I'm telling you, I got $25 a newscast when I started.
Wow.
It was just horrible, and they didn't give me a pointer for my maps, and so I won't tell you where I got the car antenna. Car antenna
Awesome.
Telescoped out. And I went to point to the weather map, and my hand was trembling so bad. And as you can imagine, trembling bad here is one thing, but you extrapolate that down. And so I was sweeping from like Reno to St. Louis. But it was just awful. Heather, I tell everybody when they start, don't expect to start and be good at it right away, because
I love that.
Malcolm Gladwell says those 10,000 hours will make you an expert, and they will. And so in my case, it was just a matter of doing it over and over and over again, and being willing to go out there and fail, which is what I did spectacularly a couple of times. But I had a really tremendous boss who saw something there. Not sure what, but he did, and he let me continue to try, and I got better. And I think part of it was wanting to do better. I had already fallen in love at that point with the profession, and I knew that if I could work really, really hard at it, that I could get better, and I did. And so that's what I tell
awesome.
that.
And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because I didn't know all of those things that you had done, and it's really a story of aim, fire, ready, right? It's not ready, aim, fire. It's
Although I hear you read that all, and I think, wow, I guess I really did, I mean, it's all true, but when you're walking your path, you're not always looking over your shoulder, so you don't see what you're accumulating, but you get to a certain point in your career where when you do look back, you realize all that hard work has been coming up with you, and then you have amassed a body of work, and I think that's the way to do it.
So let me ask you about vision, because you said you sort of fell in love more and more as you went along. And I think sometimes people get that idea that they have this big vision and they're shooting for the big vision and it overwhelms them. They don't know how to get from, their local market to the Today Show. So they get overwhelmed with all of the possibilities. And what I hear you saying is you do the work. You take this step and then you do this step and you did this step, and you get your hands dirty along the way.
Well, there's a school of thought out there. I mean, everybody's heard of The Secret, right? Mm-hmm. That, if you just want something bad enough and visualize it enough, it will come to you. And I just think that's half the secret. I think the other half.
You need to write a book. The other half of the secret.
The other half of the secret is you got to, as you say, you got to get your hands dirty. You got to do the work. There was a young woman when I was in Los Angeles, and she was in our station, and I was trying to mentor her. I mean, I think it's very important in every profession that you bring people along with you, because when I was leaving that first job in Reno, where I was the unpaid intern, and I was leaving to get my first job as a professional, I was getting hired to be a reporter in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a story in itself. But I said to him, how can I thank you for what you did for me? You took a chance on me. By the way, he did make me go to school. He did make me go to college. But I quit college halfway through because I got a full-time job in the profession that I wanted. But that's another story as well. People, I think, need more education today to qualify for these jobs. But what I was saying to him, how do I thank you? He said, the way to thank me is to pass it along, because the more we help each other, the more it's like when the tide comes in, all the ships rise. And so helping people come along in the profession is only going to make the profession better. So there's this young woman, and I'm mentoring her, and she worked in the building, and she would come and shadow me when I'd go out on stories. And she sat and cried in the van one day and said to me, I don't understand, they won't give me a job like you, and I really want it like you. I really, really want it. And I said, well, that's important that you want it, but from what I understand, you're not doing your job, because you're blowing off your job to go up to the newsroom and hang out with the news people. I said, you can't skip it over. You gotta do the work. So do your job well, and then put in extra work into the career that you want. Because all we're hearing about is, where is she? She didn't finish her work, or she cut out to go to the newsroom. Finish your work and then come up here. You can't just want it. You have to be willing to work for it.
Yeah, awesome. So what advice would you give people who don't want your job? They don't want to be a journalist, but they're working hard, they're educated in their field, but they want to be in the media. They want to get picked up. They want to get interviewed on the Today Show, or they want to get on a podcast. What tips would you give them to be media ready so that someone would take an interest in their story?
Well, I think it's important to know how to get through the gate. There are all sorts of gatekeepers in journalism, and they're the ones that approve whether or not there's going to be a story done on a particular topic. I think you need to pick up the newspaper, find out who the editors are, find out who the city desk editor is at television stations, find out who the managing editor is. Or say you're a teacher with a certain amount of expertise, go find the education reporters and start to network with them. I think you have to have a compelling message. I think you have to have something unusual, like in my case, a dog barking in the background. I apologize for that. So, I used to say, you only need one appearance. If you can get on once, then all you have to do is, call up and say, hey, I'm an expert on such and such. I was interviewed on Channel 3 or on Channel 5. Past experience will give you the best way in. So you need to get that first interview, and you have to be ready for it. So You have to have a message. You have to have a focused message. And, this is what you help people with. I know you help them get from here to here. And, and in doing so, you really hone the message. You get it sharp. You get it laser focused. Television interviews are not very long. I used to tell people when they come in the studio, just relax. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Just watch me so that you can tell when I want to get to the next question. It does not require a lot of explanation. People are usually very shocked at how fast these interviews go. So, you have to be able to give your answers very quickly on a topic that you're an expert on. Mm-hmm. So go in prepared, go in super prepared. But be willing to hand that interview over to them and give them some suggested questions and then let them drive it. Yeah. And I used to tell people that's the best way to do it. If you come in thinking, all right, well, I'm getting interviewed and I have 4 pages of data that I've been studying that I want to share. No, that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. Maybe in a long print article, you get a chance to really explain things in depth, but television is really about just extended sound bites.
Yeah, it's so funny. I just did a video that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon. It was, are you tweetable? Because it's not just television now. Now we have Twitter. You have like 3 seconds on the internet to grab someone's attention.
I know. So you have to really essentially know how to write headlines, It's headline writing for Twitter, and that's just to grab people in to maybe link them to a longer piece. But if you want to get interviewed, you have to have your message. You have to know what it is you want to say. You have to be able to reach the gatekeepers and make a compelling case for yourself. Mm-hmm. You need to tell them what's unusual about you. Why are you special as opposed to anybody else they've had that they've interviewed on this topic before. So, it's finding those connections and finding those ways to bust through to the assignment editor, the managing editor, the city desk, the education reporter, the medical reporter, the economics reporter, the business page, wherever your expertise may lay.
So do you have to have a PR person doing that for you, or could any entrepreneur start that process of contacting those people?
I think any entrepreneur should try it themselves first, because PR people charge money. They charge you a lot of money to do that for you. And then in the end, what do you get? You get a little exposure, but, the internet is one of those places where everyone's expected to work for free, and I just don't know how people in journalism are doing it today. The Huffington Post and Examiner.com, they don't even pay people who are writing for them. And what they say is, oh, well, you get exposure that you can then trade somewhere else. But that seems to be the key, is building up your exposure so that you get name recognition, so that you become a brand. Right. So really, you have to become your own brand. It used to be a journalist would get hired at, say, a CBS station, and then they would become part of that station's brand. Right. So that was their name, and then it would be, CBS reporter, local CBS reporter. But now they don't hire you unless you are a brand already, it seems. So then you come in, and, Nate Silver is a perfect example of that. The New York Times hired him, and they hired him because he was already a successful writer and an analyst. So they hired him to come into the New York Times as an existing brand. Yeah. It used to be you would expect your employer to create that for you.
That's right.
So find ways, people like you who can help people pull their focus together, get their image together. I mean, asking for help is one thing. Hiring an agency to do it for you, I think, is premature until you get to a point where, okay, I need some help now. Now CNN is calling me.
So would you say the order of preparedness would be get your brand in order, get your message together, have your point of view, have your sound bites ready, all of those things. Then if you need help getting your foot in the door and you've already got your brand solidified, then check out a PR agency to help open some of those other doors.
No, I would even say try it yourself. One of the things that helped me the most in television, Heather, was sweeping up those floors and putting those slides away. It was horrible. I worked really late. I kept thinking I'm I'm getting nowhere with this. But what I was doing was I was gathering up all this data about how a newsroom runs so that I knew both sides of that lens before I got in front of it. I knew how to shoot camera, I knew how to edit, I knew how to produce newscasts, I knew all of that before I stepped in front of the camera, and that made me a better on-air reporter. So I think trying to take steps yourself to learn this process is important to the point, if you ever do and when you do hire somebody, you know what they're supposed to be doing for you because you tried to do it and you were unsuccessful. So you know what the expectations are. It's important to have, I think, an understanding of expectation.
That's awesome.
Can you reach out? Can you reach these people? Can you send query letters and do all of that? Yes, and I think it's important for people to try that. But if they're not getting anywhere and they do need some help, well, then yes, then they should avail themselves of help. But just be aware, you're paying for this. You should try to do it yourself, and after that, then reach for the wallet.
So let's go from sweeping the floors to sitting across from Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter. What did you learn from those people that you interviewed who were at the top of their game about being magnetic, being engaging, and really connecting with their audience?
Well, I think when you get to people who are that successful, quite often they become a little insulated, because now they've got handlers, now they've got, this like legion of people around them that are all, bringing them in the room, bringing them out of the room. And sometimes you see them getting sort of handled around when you wish they had less handlers and more chance to talk directly. I think what I found with Bill Clinton was he had a real gift. Now, whether you like him or you don't like him, he had an extraordinary charisma and has it still to this day that when he looks at you, you are the only person in the room. He's magnetic that way. He has a way of, everybody in a room, it's a crowded room. Here's the President of the United States. Every single person in that room is looking at him. And yet he manages to tune it all out and just look at the person that he's talking to and gives them his total focus. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. This is incredible that he can do that. And it's very magnetic and it's very charismatic.
That's such a good lesson for marketers. Cast your net narrowly, focus, pay attention to the person that you're trying to talk to right across from you.
Who's your audience?
Who's your audience, and speak directly to them and not to the thousands of other people out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was, he came to our station in Rhode Island, and I was one of the hosts of this town hall meeting that he did. It was incredible. It was just wonderful. And we did it with some other stations, and he came in the studio. And I had known him when I was a reporter in Little Rock, and he was the governor. And so seeing him again after all these years, and then now here he's the President of the United States, and, it was a remarkable experience because he really wanted to connect with everyone in that room, and he really made an effort to listen to them and really focus on them when they were talking, and then think about it for a moment and gave back very thoughtful replies. I was very impressed with that. The other world leaders, it was more of a controlled situation where I was, with other reporters trying to get my microphone in front of them, but I think that you notice a certain kind of presence. Like you say, there's a presence with people who have reached the top of their field. And I don't know if that was there all along or if that's the confidence that just comes with being successful.
Mm-hmm. So now you've sort of taken on this role of mentor and giving back. And I know that you have other projects that you're really passionate about it as well. And in your bio, I talked about your passion for animals. So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in your point in your life now.
Well, thanks for asking about that. The government, we have 50,000 of America's wild horses are now being held in pens across the United States. They round them up and they put them in these little pens, and many of them end up dying of depression. They're wild animals and they stuff them in these feedlots. It's a very complicated issue. We have more in captivity now than we have left that are free, running free in the United States. And, you know, they're a protected class of animals, but unfortunately the lands that they roam on are also ripe for solar, oil and gas exploration, big agriculture. It's all these competing interests, you know, vying for these lands. And, you know, I just feel bad that these animals, which did so much to help contribute to our country even becoming the country it is today. Horses carried everybody. They carried the Spaniards, the Native American Indians. It was the whole push west was on the backs of these animals. And to see them rounded up like that and just shut away and left to die is just horrible for me. So what I'd like to try to see and help the government develop are alternatives where we can create places in municipalities where people can come and learn about the animals, see them, adopt them, have kids learn about their contributions to history, that sort of thing, and create sort of an eco-generating sanctuary for these animals. So that's kind of slow work. The government's big and bureaucratic and slow to change, but I've been at it now for a couple of years, and we're just very slowly making progress. Awareness is a very big part of it. You know, they're not on the radar screen for most Americans, and so when you tell them about them, they go, oh, I didn't realize we still had, you know, 25,000 wild horses running free in the West, but we do.
Yeah, and I love that you're using your gift, your expertise, and your connections to raise awareness to a cause that you're passionate about. You know,
thank you. Well, I think, you know, we use what we have and what we can. You know, everybody can contribute something. I'm not a Mormon, but I do like their attitude of when it comes to contributing. They say people can give time, talent, or treasure. Mm-hmm. And that's really a good way to look at it. If you want to help an organization, you can give them some of your time. You can lend your talents to them, help them write their newsletters if you're a writer, for example, or give them money, give them treasure. But there are all kinds of ways we can get involved in things that mean something to us, and it isn't just with a checkbook. So I'm giving what I can, which, like you say, is my expertise on how to communicate.
Yeah, and I think that anytime you're using your expertise, I like to think about it as massaging your soul, because we all have talents, and if you don't use those atrophy. And it's such a part of who we are, and it's what makes you great at what you do. Whether you're an anchor person or you're an advocate for horses, you're using and tapping into, and I like to say massaging your gifts to give back. So I think that's a great lesson for everybody to, whether you're volunteering or you're getting paid, you know, your $25,000 consulting fee, you know, you're massaging that gift.
I think it's very important that people find that which activates their soul and try to pursue that. And, you know, for some people, they do jobs that give them the money so they can go out and do the things that they love. I mean, not everyone is fortunate enough to find work that will give them that reward. But, you know, the work can reward them in a way that they can still get there. Yeah. But I think it's once you lose sight of taking care of that part of yourself, then you're just part of the machine,
right?
You know? So either find work that you love and dive into it with your heart and soul, and then it won't matter as much to you if you're making tons of money because you'll be loving what you're doing, or get a job that will give you enough money to pursue those things that mean something to you.
So we've come full circle now. We've come back to because what you're talking about to me is vision. Whether you're going towards your vision in your career, in your job, or you're using or you're leveraging your career for your vision. But having that vision that gives meaning to your life, that allows you to pursue your passions, is so important. So
I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I really want to thank you for being here. And one of the questions I always ask everybody when we come to the close of our interviews is, what are you most grateful for?
Well, that can be an extremely deep question. I guess I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful mostly for the kindness that people have extended to me over my lifetime. You know, you think your path is a solitary one. It's like, even in my career in television, there was so much that I had to do by myself, but I could never have done it without the kindness of other people at very crucial moments in my life, like the gentleman who hired me without any experience and gave me a chance. I mean, talk about being grateful. I'm grateful to him for my entire life. And other points in my life where I was, you know, in a dark place or in an unsure time, and kindness reveals itself to be the gift that it really is in the darkness of your life. So that's what I would say.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I'm grateful for you. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate you being here and sharing your time with me and with everybody who showed up to hear us talk. And I'm thankful for your voice. I'm thankful for you being a channel for people who don't have a voice, and exposing atrocities and violence that against animals and people and women. And I'm grateful and appreciative that you swept the floors and did the work so that you could unfold into this powerhouse and this heart of shining a light to our world. So thank you so much, Ginger, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and thank you so much, Heather, for the light that you're bringing to others with the work that you're doing.
Thank you. So, Ginger, if people want to find out more about you, want to find out more about the horses, what the work you're doing and your writing and your speaking, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I can be reached at my AOL account. It's Ginger Casey at AOL, but no E in Ginger. So it's GingerCasey at AOL.
Okay. Is there a website?
GingerCasey.com.
Okay.
I have a website. Yes,
Okay, I'm writing in here right now into the chat. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome. I hope I was able to help you with your show and help your listeners learn a little bit about how to get some of that focus together for mass media.
Yeah, absolutely. If you love Ginger, raise your hand. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I really appreciate your time as well. And as a gift for you, for showing up and spending the time with me, if you'd like to learn more about how you can become a great speaker like Ginger and sell from the stage, you can go to clearvoicebranding.com/close-any-room and download my free webinar, Close Any Room. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Ginger.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Thrive. I loved having you here. I love having you as part of my community. And if you're enjoying the show, I would love it if you share it with your friends on Twitter, on Facebook, or wherever they're hanging out. I also want to let you know you can leave me feedback or comments. I love hearing from you. Just post those at heatherpoduska.com. You can also leave suggestions for topics that you'd like to know more about, or if there's someone you'd really like to see on the show, let me know that as well. Okay, until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care. Bye-bye.